We're going to take a moment here in the installation to talk about some of the nuances in doing an installation. Now, here's one of the first ones. The bracket is a very useful device, and if you have a wall that you can just connect it to, that's all well and fine. Now, even though it always says install this way up, and you can see it's upside down, that's because of this tamper-proof device right here. It's a little click lock. If you're not in a tamper-proof or a sensitive tamper-proof location, it makes it quite difficult to remove the unit if you need to take it off. So generally speaking, what we do is we install it upside down in non-tamper-proof locations, or right side up if you want to utilize the click. They hook on quite easily with into those little teeth there. Always sounds easy, right? And there it is. Now it's very secure, it's not going anywhere. Now if you're trying to connect directly to the metal, or if you need to connect directly to the unit itself, then you may not want to screw in the bracket, in which case Velcro makes a pretty good alternative. I use the 2-inch industrial Velcro. Normally I put the smooth side on the metal, and then the felt side goes onto the Smartcool. Use about a 4-inch piece, and then the Smartcool is very easy to remove if they need to service the inside of the unit or any other application. I also tend to use the Velcro when I'm doing the installation in the outdoor cans. If it's for weatherproof purposes, the Velcro seems to work very well there. Never, never, never use Velcro if you're going to be installing in a location that is wet or damp or exposed to weather, directly exposed to weather, because it will fall off. Now, a couple other little nuances. Since this is going to be an indoor application, I really don't need to use this weather seal. So I can take it out, which gives me more room to run my wires and do my wiring through. So in this case, I'm not going to use the weather seal because it's not ever going to be exposed to weather. And that'll be how I apply that. By the way, although more and more of the units now are coming with self-contained screws, as soon as you take those 2 screws off the bottom cap, make sure you secure them, because they will tend to fall out in the most inappropriate locations. We fixed that in the later model, so I don't know if you have that or not. Now, let's take a look down here and let's think about for just a moment how we're going to interact here. Now, this is very similar to the wiring terminals you may see inside the unit, and you'll see that we have a common and a hot. Okay, well that's great. So now I can use the hot to supply power to the Smartcool, and the common, obviously, to complete the circuit for power to the Smartcool. I can also now, because the common is common throughout the same system, I can jumper over the common inside the Smartcool in order to provide the common to channels 1 and channels 2. Now here we are at the Y1 and the Y2. Now here's a little trick. Now if we pull this apart, we notice, and it may not be intuitive, that we have a cable that's going all the way back to the air handler. Well, wait a second, why do we need that if we're going to have the thermostat that's connecting here and going out to the compressor? Well, the reason why is that the air handler has multiple speeds. So depending whether you have fan or Y1 engaged or Y2 engaged, it can have 3 different speeds. So you want to be sure that you don't interrupt those speed changes whenever you get a hot going to the unit. So that means then that the thing that we need to take control of is going to be the cable that's coming in from the thermostat, because that will be our most important cable coming in. So just a quick word about cable selection. Everybody has their own little unique ways of doing it. When I do duals, I like to use an 8-conductor cable, 18 gauge. Works very, very well. A couple other words about cables. Obviously, if I'm doing a single, I prefer the 5-conductor cable. It works just fine for it. That way I don't have a lot of extra cables coming out and going every which way but loose. Now when you're doing refrigeration units and outdoor high voltage units, I do not recommend that you use this kind of a cable. It's fine for most applications with air conditioning, but when you're dealing with refrigeration, there's a lot of sharp edges, there's a lot of things, and I always suggest people go to a standard power cable like a THHN 14 gauge. It works very, very well. It's extremely abrasion resistant and does well for refrigeration units. You can still, though, there is an irrigation cable, for example, is fairly heavy, heavily insulated and weatherproofed, and you can always go with an irrigation cable. which comes in 5 and 8 conductor, just like the thermostat cable.